The stars looked like diamonds scattered across black velvet. Captain Jake Miller stood at the bridge of his ship, the Horizon, and watched the endless universe through the main window. He had been in space for 3 months now, traveling farther than any human had ever gone before. Jake was 32 years old with tired eyes and strong hands. He had joined the space program when he was young because he wanted to see what was out there. Now he was leading humanity's first mission to make friends with alien species. It was a heavy responsibility, but Jake never complained. He just did his job. Emma Cole walked up beside him. She was his first officer and his closest friend. They had worked together for 5 years, and she knew him better than anyone. Her dark hair was pulled back tight, and her uniform was perfect, as always. "You should sleep," Emma said. "You have been standing here for 6 hours." Jake smiled a little. "I will sleep when we get home. That might be years from now. Then I will be very tired." Emma shook her head, but she was smiling too. This was how Jake always was. He gave everything to the mission and kept nothing for himself. The Horizon was a beautiful ship. It carried 200 people, all of them volunteers who wanted to explore the unknown. They were scientists, engineers, doctors, and soldiers. They had left Earth with hope in their hearts and a simple goal: find other intelligent life and offer friendship. Ryan Brooks came running onto the bridge. He was the chief engineer, a young man with messy hair and grease stains on his uniform. He was always running somewhere. "Captain, we are picking up a signal," Ryan said. He was breathing hard. "It sounds like a distress call." Jake turned around fast. "Show me." Ryan's fingers moved across the control panel. A crackling sound filled the bridge, and then a voice came through. It was not human. The words were strange, but the ship's computer translated them. "Help us. Our ship is damaged. We are dying. Please help us." The message repeated again and again. Jake felt something twist in his chest. Someone was in trouble out there. "Where is it coming from?" he asked. "About 2 hours away," Ryan said. "It is near the border of something called the Keth Empire. We do not know much about them." Emma stepped forward. Her face was serious. "Jake, this could be a trap. We are in unknown space. We do not know who these Keth are or what they want." She was right. Jake knew she was right. But he also knew something else. He knew that humans did not ignore people who needed help. That was not who they were. "We cannot just leave them," Jake said quietly. "We do not know if the message is real. And if it is real, if there are people dying out there while we fly away because we were scared." Emma was quiet. She understood. This was why she followed Jake. He was not just a good captain. He was a good man. "Set a course," Jake ordered. "We are going to help." The Horizon changed direction and flew toward the signal. The crew prepared for a rescue mission. Dr. Lily Grant got the medical bay ready. She was a small woman with gentle hands and a brilliant mind. If anyone was hurt, she would save them. 2 hours passed slowly. The crew was nervous, but ready. They had trained for this. They could handle anything, or so they thought. The Horizon dropped out of faster than light speed near a small damaged ship. It was floating alone in the darkness, lights flickering weakly. Jake ordered his crew to scan it. "Life signs?" he asked. "None," Ryan said. He sounded confused. "The ship is empty." Jake felt cold suddenly. Empty? But the distress call was still playing. How could the ship be empty? And then the universe changed around them. Ships appeared from nowhere. Dozens of them. Huge warships with black holes and red markings. They had been hiding, waiting. The distress call was bait, and the Horizon had swallowed it whole. Alarms screamed across the bridge. Red lights flashed everywhere. Emma shouted orders while the crew ran to their stations. "We are surrounded," Ryan said. His voice was shaking. 23 ships. They are all pointing weapons at us." Jake stared at the enemy fleet. Each ship was 3 times bigger than the horizon. His little vessel looked like a toy compared to them. A new transmission came through. A face appeared on the screen. It was humanoid, but not human. The skin was pale like snow, and the eyes were silver and cold. The creature wore armor that seemed alive, moving slightly like it was breathing. "Human vessel," the alien said. "I am Commander Torek of the Keth Empire. You have entered our space without permission. This is a crime punishable by death." Jake stepped forward. His heart was pounding, but his voice was steady. "We came in peace. We received a distress call and wanted to help." Commander Torek smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Yes, we know." That was the point. The trap had worked perfectly. The Keth had used humanity's kindness against them. "You will surrender your ship," Torek continued. "Your crew will become prisoners. If you resist, we will destroy you. There will be no warning shots. There will be no mercy." Jake looked at Emma. She looked back at him. They both knew the truth. The Horizon had no chance against this fleet. They could fight and die, or they could surrender and maybe live. 200 lives depended on Jake's choice. He thought about his crew. He thought about Ryan, who had a daughter back on Earth. He thought about Lily, who had given up a comfortable life to explore the stars. He thought about Emma, who trusted him completely. "We surrender," Jake said. The words tasted like ash in his mouth. Commander Torek nodded. "A wise choice, human. Prepare to be boarded." The Keth soldiers came onto the horizon like a dark wave. They were tall and moved without making sound. Their weapons were pointed at everyone. The crew was forced to their knees, with their hands behind their heads. Jake watched his people being taken prisoner. Some of them were crying. Some were angry. All of them were scared. A Keth soldier grabbed Jake and pulled him away from the others. "The captain comes with us," the soldier said. "Queen Vela will decide his fate personally." Jake looked back at Emma one last time. Her eyes were full of fear and determination. She mouthed 3 words to him. "Stay alive, Captain." Then he was dragged away into the darkness. The journey to the Keth homeworld took 1 day. Jake was kept in a small cell with no windows. He did not know where his crew was or if they were safe. He only knew that he had failed them. When the ship finally landed, Jake was pulled outside. He saw the Keth homeworld for the first time. The sky was red like blood. Black towers reached up toward the clouds like giant fingers. Everything was dark and sharp and cold. This was not a place of peace. This was a place of power and fear. Jake was just a human, a small creature from a small planet. But as the guards pushed him toward the palace, he made a silent promise. He would find a way to save his crew. He would find a way to survive, no matter what it cost him. The palace was the biggest building Jake had ever seen. It rose from the ground like a mountain made of black glass. Sharp edges caught the red light of the alien sun and threw it back in bloody reflections. Guards stood at every door, every corner, every shadow. They watched Jake with cold silver eyes as he was dragged through endless hallways. Jake tried to remember the path they were taking. Left, then right, then up a long staircase. But soon he lost track. The palace was a maze designed to confuse and frighten visitors. It was working. Finally, they reached a massive door. It was made of dark metal and covered in strange symbols that seemed to move when Jake looked at them directly. 2 guards pushed the door open, and Jake was thrown inside. He stumbled, but did not fall. He would not give them that satisfaction. The throne room was enormous. The ceiling was so high that Jake could barely see it. Pillars of black stone lined the walls, and red banners hung between them. Hundreds of Keth nobles filled the room, standing in perfect rows. They all turned to look at Jake, and he felt their hatred like heat from a fire. But Jake did not look at them. His eyes were fixed on the throne at the far end of the room. It was made of the same black glass as the palace. sharp and beautiful and dangerous. And sitting on that throne was the most terrifying creature Jake had ever seen. Queen Vela. She was tall, even sitting down. Her skin was pale like moonlight, and her hair was silver white, flowing down her back like water. Her eyes were the color of liquid mercury, bright and cold and ancient. She wore armor that seemed to be alive, black metal that moved and shifted with her breathing. She was beautiful. She was terrifying. She was both at the same time, and Jake could not look away. The guards forced Jake to his knees before the throne. His chains rattled against the floor. The sound echoed through the silent room. Queen Vela studied him like he was an insect. Her face showed no emotion. No curiosity, no anger, no interest. Just cold emptiness. "So this is a human?" she said. Her voice was smooth and sharp, like a blade wrapped in silk. I expected something more impressive. The nobles laughed. It was an ugly sound, cruel and mocking. Jake lifted his head and looked directly at the queen. He knew it was dangerous, but he would not bow his head like a frightened animal. "I am Captain Jake Miller of the Earthship Horizon," he said. His voice was steady. "My crew and I came in peace. We meant no harm to your empire." "And yet harm has been done," the queen replied. "You entered Keth space without permission. By our law, this is an act of war. The punishment is death." The nobles murmured in approval. They wanted blood. Jake could see it in their hungry eyes. "We answered a distress call," Jake said. "We thought someone needed help. That is all we wanted." "To help?" Queen Vela tilted her head slightly. For just a moment, something flickered in her eyes. Curiosity, perhaps. Or confusion. "Help," she repeated, as if the word was strange to her. "You risked your ship and your crew to help strangers? Why would you do such a foolish thing?" "Because that is what humans do. We help each other. We help anyone who needs it. That is who we are." The room was silent. The nobles did not understand. To them, helping strangers was weakness. Compassion was stupidity. They could not imagine why anyone would risk themselves for nothing in return. But the queen was still watching Jake. Her silver eyes were searching his face, looking for lies. She found none. An old Keth woman stepped forward from beside the throne. Her skin was wrinkled like ancient paper, and her eyes were clouded with age. But she moved with dignity and power. This was Elder Mira, the oldest advisor to the throne. She whispered something in the queen's ear. Jake could not hear the words, but he saw the queen's expression change slightly. Something was happening. Something important. Queen Vela stood from her throne. She was even taller than Jake had thought, towering over him like a goddess of darkness. She walked down the steps slowly, her armor shifting with each movement. The nobles held their breath. No one moved. The queen stopped in front of Jake. She was so close that he could feel the cold coming off her skin. She smelled like winter storms and distant stars. "You are brave," she said quietly. "Foolish, but brave. Most creatures would be weeping by now, begging for mercy. But you look at me without fear." "I am afraid," Jake admitted. "But fear does not control me." "Interesting." The queen circled him slowly, studying him from every angle. "I have a problem, human. Perhaps you can help me solve it." Jake said nothing. He just waited. "The Keth Empire has strict laws about succession," the queen continued. "A queen must take a consort to legitimize her rule. A husband to stand beside her and give her heirs. Without one, my rivals may challenge my throne." She stopped in front of him again, her silver eyes burning into his. "I have rejected every Keth male who has offered himself. They are weak, boring, unworthy, but you are something different. Something new. A creature from a species I have never encountered before." Jake felt his heart stop. He suddenly understood where this was going, and it terrified him more than death. I offer you a choice, Queen Vela said. Her voice rang through the throne room like a bell. Become my consort. Marry me and stand beside the throne of the Keth Empire. Or refuse and die, along with every single member of your crew. The silence was absolute. Even the nobles seemed shocked that Jake felt the world spinning around him. This was impossible. This could not be happening. He was a simple ship captain from Earth. He was not meant to be the husband of an alien empress, but his crew. 200 people who had trusted him. 200 lives that would end if he refused. Commander Torek stepped forward. His face was twisted with rage. My queen, this is madness. You cannot marry this inferior creature. He is nothing but an animal. Silence. The queen's voice cracked like thunder. You forget your place, Commander. I did not ask for your opinion. Torek's face went pale. He stepped back, but his eyes were full of poison when he looked at Jake. Queen Vela turned back to the human. You have one night to make your decision. Choose wisely, Captain. Your life and the lives of your crew depend on it. She gestured to the guards. Take him to a cell. Give him food and water. He is not to be harmed. The guards grabbed Jake and pulled him to his feet. As they dragged him away, he looked back at the queen one last time. She was still watching him, her silver eyes unreadable. What was she thinking? What did she really want? Jake did not know. But he had one night to figure it out. The cell they put him in was small but clean. There was a bed, a table, and a window that looked out at the red sky. Jake sat on the bed and put his head in his hands. Marriage or death. Not just his death, but the death of everyone who had followed him into space. Emma, Ryan, Lily, and all the others. They were all counting on him. He thought about his life back on Earth. He had no family waiting for him. No wife, no children, no one who would miss him if he never came home. His whole life had been the mission. The ship. The stars dot. Maybe this was his purpose. Maybe this was why he had been put in charge of the horizon. Not to explore the universe, but to save his crew. Jake lay down on the bed and stared at the ceiling. He had one night to make the biggest decision of his life. One night to choose between freedom and sacrifice. But deep down, he already knew what he was going to do. He was going to save his people Dodd, no matter what it cost him. Jake did not sleep that night. He sat by the window and watched the alien stars move slowly across the red sky. They were different from the stars back home. Colder, more distant. Like the Keth themselves. A sound at the door made him turn around. It opened slowly, and an old figure stepped inside. It was Elder Mira, the ancient advisor he had seen in the throne room. Jake stood up quickly. What do you want? Mira raised a wrinkled hand. Peace, young human. I mean, you no harm. I have come to talk. She moved slowly across the room and sat down on the only chair. Her old bones creaked, but her eyes were sharp and intelligent. You are wondering why the queen made this offer, Mira said. It was not a question. The thought crossed my mind. Myra smiled slightly. It was the first kind expression Jake had seen on any Keth face. The queen is many things, the old woman said. She is powerful. She is feared. She is respected. But she is also alone. More alone than you can imagine. Jake sat back down on the bed. He was listening carefully now. The Keth Empire is dying, Myra continued. Her voice was sad. Not from war or disease, but from something worse. We are dying from emptiness. Our people have forgotten how to feel. We have built a civilization of logic and power, but we have lost our hearts along the way. She looked at Jake with her clouded eyes. Our birth rates fall every year. Our young people see no reason to create families. Our artists stopped making art centuries ago because they saw no point. We are a race of ghosts, Captain, walking through existence without truly living. Jake felt something shift inside him. He had expected the Keth to be monsters, evil creatures who enjoyed causing pain. But this was different. This was sadness. This was loss. What does this have to do with me? He asked. I have studied your species from afar, Myra said. Humans are strange to us. You feel so deeply. You love, you hate, you laugh, you cry. You create beautiful things just because they make you happy. You help strangers, even when it costs you everything. She leaned forward. I believe humans may hold the key to saving my people, not through war or conquest, but through example, by showing us what we have forgotten, by reminding us how to feel. Jake was quiet for a long moment. He was trying to understand. So the Queen wants to marry me because she thinks I can teach her people to be human? The Queen does not know what she wants, Myra admitted. She has never felt true emotion. She has never known love or joy or hope. She chose you because you were different, because you stood before her without fear, because something about you made her curious. The old woman stood up slowly. Tomorrow you will give your answer. I am not here to tell you what to choose, but I want you to understand what your choice might mean. Not just for you and your crew, but for billions of Keth who have never known what it means to truly live. She walked to the door and stopped. One more thing, Captain. Commander Torek is dangerous. He has wanted to marry the Queen for many years. He sees you as a threat. Be careful. Then she was gone, and Jake was alone again. He did not sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning, guards came to take Jake back to the throne room. His chains were heavy, but his heart was heavier. He had made his decision during the long hours of darkness. The throne room was just as crowded as before. The nobles watched him with cold eyes. Commander Torek stood near the throne, his face a mask of barely controlled anger. Queen Vela sat on her throne like a statue carved from ice. She watched Jake approach with no expression on her beautiful face. You have had your night, she said. What is your answer, human? Jake stood as tall as his chains would allow. He looked at the Queen, then at the crowd, then back at the Queen. I accept your proposal, he said clearly. The room erupted in noise. Nobles shouted in anger and disbelief. Commander Torek stepped forward, his hand on his weapon. My Queen, you cannot allow this. Torek shouted. This creature is beneath you, beneath all of us. Silence. The Queen's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. Everyone went quiet immediately. She turned back to Jake. You accept. Interesting. I did not expect you to choose survival over pride. I did not choose survival, Jake said. I chose my crew. Their lives are worth more than my pride. Something flickered in the Queen's eyes. Was it surprise? Respect? Jake could not tell. But I have conditions, Jake continued. The room went even more silent. No one made demands of the Queen. No one negotiated with her. It simply was not done. Even the Queen looked surprised. Conditions? Yes. Jake's voice was strong and clear. First, my crew must be released immediately. They will be given safe passage back to Earth. The nobles muttered angrily, but Jake kept talking. Second, I will be treated as an equal. Not a pet. Not a prisoner. I will have the right to speak my mind, even if I disagree with you. Queen Vela's eyes narrowed slightly. Third, you will sign a peace treaty with Earth. No attacks, no invasions, no more traps. Our two species will be at peace. The throne room exploded in outrage. Nobles screamed that this was unacceptable. Commander Torek was purple with rage, but Jake did not look at them. He looked only at the Queen. Those are my conditions, he said. Accept them, and I will stand beside you. Reject them, and you can kill me. but you will never find another human willing to make this bargain." The silence stretched like a wire about to snap. Everyone waited to see what the queen would do. Would she kill this arrogant human? Would she torture him for his disrespect? Queen Bela stood up slowly. She walked down the steps until she stood directly in front of Jake. Her silver eyes burned into his. "You are either the bravest creature I have ever met," she said softly, "or the most foolish." "Maybe both," Jake replied. And then something impossible happened. The corner of the queen's mouth twitched upward. It was almost a smile. "Very well," she said. "I accept your conditions." The room went mad. Nobles protested. Commander Torek looked like he might explode. But the queen ignored them all. "The marriage ceremony will take place today," she announced. "The human crew will be released immediately, and messengers will be sent to Earth to negotiate a peace treaty." She turned to Jake. "You are mine now, Captain Jake Miller. I hope you do not make me regret this decision." The ceremony was cold and formal. There were no flowers, no music, no celebration. Just ancient words spoken by Elder Myra and witnessed by hundreds of angry nobles. When it was over, Jake was no longer a prisoner. He was the consort of Queen Vela, ruler of the Keth Empire. His crew was brought to the palace to say goodbye. Emma came to him with tears in her eyes. "Jake, you do not have to do this," she whispered. "We can fight. We can find another way." Jake shook his head. "This is the only way. Take our people home, Emma. Tell Earth what happened here. And tell them not to give up on me." Emma grabbed his hand and squeezed hard. "We will come back for you," she promised. "I do not care how long it takes. We will come back." Jake watched his crew board their ship and fly away into the stars. He stood on the palace balcony until their lights disappeared into the darkness. He was alone now. A human in an alien empire. A husband to a queen who did not know how to feel. But somewhere deep inside, Jake felt something like hope. Elder Mira had said the Keth needed to learn how to feel again. Maybe that was his purpose now. Maybe he could make a difference. He turned and walked back into the palace, thought his new life was about to begin. 3 months passed slowly in the palace. At first, Jake felt like a prisoner wearing golden chains. The nobles avoided him like he was diseased. Guards watched his every move. Commander Torek looked at him with murder in his silver eyes every time they passed in the hallways. Queen Vela was distant. She summoned Jake for official events where he stood beside her throne like a statue. She never spoke to him privately. She never looked at him with anything but cold indifference. Jake understood. To her, he was a political tool. Nothing more. But Jake was human. And humans did not give up easily. He started small. He learned the names of the palace servants. There were hundreds of them. Quiet figures who cleaned the floors and served the food and were invisible to the nobles. No one had ever asked their names before. No one had ever cared, but Jake cared. He talked to them. He asked about their lives, their families, their dreams. At first they were frightened. They thought he was testing them or trying to trap them. But slowly they began to trust him. There was a young servant named Tova who brought Jake his meals. She was shy and quiet, with sad eyes that reminded Jake of lost puppies back on Earth. One day, Jake asked her what was wrong. Tova looked shocked. "No one has ever asked me that before, my lord. I am asking now." She hesitated, then spoke quietly. "My mother is sick. The medicine she needs is expensive. I cannot afford it on my wages." Jake thought for a moment. As consort to the queen, he'd have been given a small allowance. He had never spent any of it. "How much do you need?" he asked. Tova told him. It was a lot for a servant, but nothing for royalty. Jake gave her the money without hesitation. Tova stared at the coins in her hands. Tears started flowing down her face. She fell to her knees and thanked him over and over. "Please stand up," Jake said gently. "You do not need to kneel. Just take care of your mother." Word spread through the servant quarters like fire. The human consort was kind. He listened. He helped. For the first time in centuries, someone with power actually cared about them. More servants came to Jake with problems. Some needed money. Some needed advice. Some just needed someone to listen. Jake helped them all, and each one walked away with a little more hope than before. The nobles noticed this strange behavior. They whispered that the human was weak. He was lowering himself to speak with servants. It was shameful. The Queen Vela also noticed. She watched Jake from a distance, her silver eyes following him through the palace. She said nothing, but she was paying attention. One evening, she summoned him to her private chambers for the first time. Jake entered a room of dark elegance. The walls were covered in ancient tapestries showing Keth history. A fire burned in a massive fireplace. The queen stood by the window, looking out at the red sky. "The servants speak highly of you," she said without turning around. "I treat them like people," Jake replied. "It is not difficult. It is not difficult for you. For us, it is impossible to understand." She finally turned to look at him. "Why do you help them? You gain nothing from it." Jake thought about the question. On Earth, we have a saying. No one is truly rich unless they help others become rich too. Kindness is not weakness. It is strength. The queen was silent for a long moment. "Teach me," she said suddenly. Jake was surprised. "Teach you what?" "Everything. Teach me about humans. Teach me why you feel so deeply. Teach me what we have forgotten." So Jake began to teach. He told her stories from Earth, myths and legends about heroes who sacrificed themselves for others, tales of love that crossed oceans and defied death, stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things simply because it was right. The queen listened without expression at first, but slowly something began to change. She started asking questions. She wanted to understand why humans did these strange things. Jake taught her to play chess. The first time she lost, her face twisted with fury. She almost threw the board across the room. "Losing is not shameful," Jake said calmly. "Losing is how we learn. Every defeat teaches us something. Every failure makes us stronger." The queen stared at him. This idea was completely foreign to her. In the Keth Empire, losing meant death. It meant humiliation. It was the worst thing that could happen, but she sat back down. And she played again. And again. And slowly, she began to improve. One night, she laughed. It happened during a chess game. Jake made a mistake on purpose, an obvious bad move. The queen saw through it immediately and punished him by taking his queen. "You let me win that piece?" she said. Jake grinned. "Maybe." And then she laughed. A real laugh, surprised and delighted. It was a beautiful sound, light and warm, completely different from her usual cold voice. She stopped immediately, shocked at herself. But Jake had seen it. A crack in the ice around her heart. News spread throughout the palace. The queen was changing. She showed mercy to a rebel province that would have been destroyed. She funded a new school for common children. She smiled at servants instead of ignoring them. The common people began to whisper about their queen. They called her Vela the Kind. It was meant as an insult by the nobles. But the people meant it with love. Commander Torek watched all of this with growing rage. The human was poisoning the queen. He was making her weak. Something had to be done. Tarek gathered other nobles who shared his anger. They met in secret and made dark plans. The human had to die. Then things could go back to the way they were. The first assassination attempt came in the night. A silent killer crept into Jake's room with a poisoned blade. But Jake had been trained in basic combat. He heard the attacker coming and fought back. The noise brought guards running, and the assassin was captured. The second attempt was poison in his food. But Tova, the servant whose mother Jake had helped, noticed something wrong. She warned him in time. The third attempt was a bomb hidden in his chambers. Jake found it by accident and managed to throw it out the window before it exploded. Each time, Jake survived. And each time, he refused to seek revenge. Then came the palace fire. No one knew how it started. Flames erupted in the east wing and spread quickly. Servants and nobles ran screaming through the hallways. Smoke filled everything. Jake was helping evacuate servants when he heard a scream. He ran toward it and found Commander Torek trapped under a fallen beam. Flames were closing in from every side. Torek looked up and saw Jake. Fear and hatred mixed in his silver eyes. "You," Torek spat. "Come to watch me die, human?" Jake grabbed the beam. It was heavy and burning hot. His hands screamed with pain. "Help me," he said to Torek. "Push when I lift." Torek stared at him in disbelief. This human who he had tried to kill 3 times was trying to save him. Together, they moved the beam. Jake pulled Torek free and half-carried him through the smoke to safety. When they emerged from the burning palace, Jake collapsed from exhaustion and pain. He woke up in the medical wing. Queen Vila was sitting beside his bed. "You saved Torek," she said. Her voice was strange, full of emotion Jake had never heard before. "He was trapped. I could not just leave him. He tried to kill you. 3 times. Jake shrugged weakly. He was still a person. His life still mattered. The queen was silent. Then she did something that shocked the entire empire. She took Jake's burned hand in hers and held it gently. "I do not understand you," she whispered. "But I want to. I want to understand how someone can be so kind." Jake looked into her silver eyes and saw something new there. Something soft and warm. Something human. "Stay with me," the queen said. "Teach me more." Jake smiled despite the pain. "I am not going anywhere." Somewhere in the palace, Commander Torek sat alone. He had been saved by the man he hated most. And for the first time in his life, he did not know what to feel. The empire was changing. Slowly, quietly, one heart at a time. All because one human refused to stop being kind. 1 year after Jake became consort, the rebellion began. Commander Torek had been quiet since the fire. He had spent months thinking about the human who saved his life. But his anger never truly died. It just changed shape. He convinced himself that Jake had saved him only to humiliate him, to show weakness with strength. It was a trick. It had to be. Torek gathered his allies in secret. Nobles who believed the queen had grown weak. Generals who wanted war instead of peace. They all agreed on one thing. The human had corrupted their empire. He had to be destroyed, and the queen had to be reminded of her true nature. The coup came at midnight. Torek's forces swarmed the palace from every direction. Soldiers loyal to him killed the royal guards without mercy. Alarms screamed through the hallways. Fire and blood painted the ancient walls. Jake woke to the sound of explosions. He ran into the hallway and saw chaos everywhere. Servants were screaming. Guards were fighting and dying. A young servant named Tova found him. "My lord, you must hide. Commander Torek is coming for you." "Where is the queen?" Jake demanded. "The throne room." "She is fighting, but there are too many of them." Jake did not hesitate. He grabbed a fallen guard's weapon and ran toward the throne room. Tova called after him, begging him to come back, but he did not listen. The palace was a war zone. Jake fought through corridors filled with smoke and death. He was not a soldier. He had no training for this, but he pushed forward anyway, driven by something stronger than fear. He had to reach Vela. The throne room doors were broken open. Inside, Queen Vela stood alone against a circle of enemies. Her armor was damaged, and silver blood ran down her face. But she was still fighting. Her movements fast and deadly. Commander Tarek stood at the head of his soldiers, watching with cold satisfaction. "Give up, my queen," he said. "You are alone. Your human pet is probably already dead. Surrender, and I will make your death quick." "I would rather die standing than live kneeling to you," Vela replied. Tarek smiled. "That can be arranged." He raised his weapon. "Wait." Jake's voice rang through the throne room. Everyone turned. Jake stood in the doorway, bruised and bleeding, holding his weapon in shaking hands. He looked small compared to the Keth soldiers. Small and fragile and utterly human. But his eyes were fierce. "If you want her, you go through me first," Jake said. Tarek laughed. It was a cruel, ugly sound. The human lives. How wonderful. "I get to kill you myself after all." He walked toward Jake slowly, enjoying the moment. His soldiers watched with amusement. This would be easy. Tarek raised his blade, and then the sky lit up. Through the throne room windows. Dozens of lights appeared in the red sky. Ships, human ships. The horizon was leading them, its familiar shape cutting through the darkness like an old friend. Emma's voice crackled through every speaker in the palace. "This is First Officer Emma Cole of the Earth vessel Horizon. We have returned for our captain, and we are prepared to go to war if necessary." The rebel soldiers stared at the sky in shock. The human fleet was smaller than the Keth forces, but they were there. They had actually come back. Tarek's face twisted with rage. "It does not matter. We will crush them after we finish here." But something else was happening. Something Tarek had not expected. The doors burst open again. But this time, it was not soldiers who entered. It was servants. Hundreds of them, armed with kitchen knives and tools and anything they could find. Tova led them, her shy face now burning with courage. "The human showed us kindness," she shouted. "He treated us like people when no one else would. We will not let him die." Behind the servants came common soldiers. Guards who remembered the Queen's mercy. Officers who had seen the changes in their empire and believed in them. The palace staff and loyal soldiers flooded into the throne room, surrounding Tarek's rebels. The numbers were suddenly equal. Tarek looked around in disbelief. "This is impossible. These are servants. They are nothing." "That is where you are wrong," Queen Vela said. Her voice was strong despite her wounds. "They are everything. They are the heart of this empire, and they have chosen their side." The battle was fierce but short. The rebels, surrounded and outnumbered, fell quickly. Many surrendered when they saw that the tide had turned. They had expected an easy victory, not a war against their own people. Commander Tarek fought until the end. He refused to surrender, screaming about honor and tradition and the old ways. Finally, he stood alone, his weapon raised against an army. "Kill me," he demanded. "That is what you do to enemies." Jake stepped forward. "No." Tarek stared at him. "What?" "We do not kill enemies who have already lost. We give them a chance to change." "You are weak. You are pathetic. This mercy is why humans will never be anything." Jake shook his head sadly. "Maybe, or maybe mercy is the strongest thing in the universe. You saved my life once, when you pushed that beam with me in the fire. You did not even realize it, but we worked together. That means there is something good in you, buried deep. I choose to believe in that." Tarek had no answer. For the first time in his life, he was truly speechless. Queen Vela stepped forward. She looked at Tarek for a long moment, then at Jake. "Commander Tarek is guilty of treason," she announced. "The punishment for treason is death." The throne room went silent. But my consort has taught me something, Vela continued. He has taught me that mercy is not weakness. It is strength. So instead of death, Commander Torek will be exiled. He will leave this world and never return. His life is spared, but his place in this empire is over. The nobles gasped. No one had ever been shown mercy for treason before. It was unprecedented, but the servants and common soldiers cheered. Their queen had chosen a new path. A better path. Torek was taken away, his face empty with shock. Jake watched him go and felt something like hope. Maybe one day, even Torek could change. The human fleet landed in the palace courtyard. Emma ran out first, throwing her arms around Jake. "You idiot," she said, laughing and crying at the same time. "You absolute idiot. I told you we would come back." "I never doubted it," Jake said. Ryan and Lily were there too, and other faces from the horizon. They had not forgotten their captain. They had spent a year building a rescue fleet and convincing Earth to support them. Queen Vela approached the humans. For a moment, tension filled the air. The Keth Queen facing the Earth fleet died, then Vela did something extraordinary. She bowed. "Thank you for coming," she said. "Thank you for saving us. Not just today, but over this entire year. Your captain has changed everything." Emma looked at Jake with raised eyebrows. "What exactly have you been doing here?" Jake smiled. "Teaching chess mostly." That night, Earth and the Keth Empire signed an official peace treaty. Ambassadors were assigned. Trade routes were opened. For the first time in history, two species from opposite sides of the galaxy agreed to be friends. The celebrations lasted for days. Humans and Keth danced together, shared food, told stories. It was awkward and clumsy, but it was beautiful. Jake found a quiet moment on a balcony overlooking the city. The sun was rising, painting the sky in soft colors instead of angry red. Even the planets seemed different now. Queen Vela found him there. "You could leave," she said quietly. "Your people have come for you. The treaty is signed. You are free to go home." Jake turned to look at her. In the soft morning light, she seemed different too. Less cold, less distant, more alive. "I know," he said. "Will you?" Jake thought about Earth. He thought about the blue skies and green forests he had grown up with. He thought about everything he had left behind. Then he thought about the servants who had risked their lives for him. He thought about Elder Mira's hope for her dying people. He thought about the changes already beginning to spread through the Empire. And he thought about Vela, the Ice Queen who had learned to laugh. The ruler who had learned mercy. The woman standing beside him, waiting for his answer with something like fear in her silver eyes. "No," Jake said. "I think I will stay. If you want me to." Relief flooded Vela's face. "I want you to stay. Not as a consort. Not as a political tool. I want you to stay as my partner. My equal. My..." She struggled with the word. It was still new to her. "My love?" she finally said. Jake took her hand. It was cold, but it was warming up. Like the rest of her. "I love you too," he said. They stood together and watched the sun rise over a new world. A world where two species had learned from each other. Where kindness had defeated cruelty. Where a single human had changed the fate of an empire. Behind them, Emma smiled and quietly walked away. She would return to Earth and tell everyone what had happened here. She would tell them about Jake Miller, the captain who saved his crew, married an alien queen, and taught the universe what it meant to be human. The story would spread across the stars. And wherever it went, it would carry a simple message. In the cold darkness of space. The strongest weapon was not a ship or a gun or an army. It was the warmth of a human heart.